Hi, I'm Michael Everts, and this is Fit to be Read, and these are my top 10 science fiction book gift ideas. So these aren't going to be just like bookish gifts. All of the gifts are going to be science fiction books, and so this is sort of my curated list of things that I think would be a good idea to give to people as gifts, but they're all books. The first idea I had was for those of you who have friends who are Stephen King fans or maybe fantasy fans, but you want to give them something that's science fiction. How about Stephen King's science fiction work? And you can curate this list however you want to. I'm going to narrow it down to 4 works. I've got Stephen King's The Stand, also The Running Man. This was written under his pen name, Richard Bachman. And then this one I just read, 11/22/63. This is a really great one. And then also Under the Dome by Stephen King. I think this is a fun idea because it's very versatile. It doesn't have to be just the science fiction reader. It could be a Stephen King fan, and this could be a way of saying, like, okay, I'm not going to give you everything he wrote, but here, why don't you try his science fiction stuff? Now, all these books, I showed you copies that were used. You can find these new, either probably on Amazon.com if you want to get something brand new and shipped to you really quickly, or you could use Blackwell's or Thrift Books or Abe Books, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find new versions of these books there. In Under the Dome, we have a city where this mysterious dome appears one day and everybody's trapped inside the city, so how are people going to react in that situation? Really interesting character study. In 11/22/63, this is time travel. The main character goes back in time to like a couple years before the Kennedy assassination, with the idea in mind that, hey, maybe I can take out Lee Harvey Oswald and stop that from happening. This is like a strong romance, time travel. It's obviously alternate history. Then we've got The Running Man. Again, he did this under his pen name, Richard Bachman. I think this copy, actually, so this is a later copy because it actually has his real name on here. This is somewhat cyberpunk. It's a dystopian world. Ben Richards, his kid is sick. The only way to get her help is for him to make some money. So he goes down to the game network and he becomes a contestant in the Running Man game where they send him out in the city and he has to avoid the hunters who are trying to kill him. If he survives at the end of the allotted time, he will win $1 billion. And finally, The Stand. This is post-apocalyptic fiction, and this is like really straddling the line between science fiction and fantasy. At number 9 is a book that would have been a great gift for me, and it would have been like near the top 1 or 2 gifts for me, but because I don't think this is for everybody and it's very specific, I'm going to drop it all the way down to number 9. And this is Neuromancer. I have a lot of copies of this book in different versions. So here's one here. We've got, let me show you this one. This is a Portuguese version. Let's see if we can get it out of here. All right, so you see William Gibson, Neuromancer. I just love the colors on this. And then you pull this out. It's got some really interesting spine work. I don't know if you can see that. And then here's the book here. But this is in Portuguese, which I'm not going to be able to read. And I don't really collect books, so to speak, but there are a few that I really like to have up on my shelf. And Neuromancer, if you've watched this channel, you know it's one of my favorite books of all time. And it's one of those books that just has so many really cool covers. So if you know somebody else who's a big science fiction fan, you don't know what to get them, but you know like they like cyberpunk books, or they like William Gibson, or they like Neuromancer, this is a really iconic cover, this Brazilian cover. If you see YouTubers talk about Neuromancer, you might see them use this imagery as well. It's beautiful. And again, if you have a Portuguese speaker in your family, or a Spanish speaker who can also read in Portuguese, this would be a really nice copy for them to have. And it's just really awesome artwork on that. I believe you could probably find this online at Alibris. I think that's where I saw it, and you can get a new copy of it there. And then this one is usually harder to find, but I have seen this one as well. And these are going to run you anywhere from like $30 to $70. And because that's so specific, I'm going to give you a part B to this one. And what I'm going to suggest is you could create a packet of books that are translated fiction. So those are actually in Spanish, and if somebody's not a Spanish reader or not a collector, it's not going to be a really great gift. But what you could do is you could give translated fiction. For example, I've got Amatka here by Karen Tidbeck. This is a Swedish author. This was translated into English. We've got Strange Beasts of China, originally published in Chinese and then translated in English. Any number of books from Stanislaw Lem, including Solaris, Polish author. A few different books we could do from Dmitry Glukovsky. This is Future. Another one by Glukovsky would be Metro 2033, Russian author, translated to English. And again, any number of Chinese authors. There's Taiwanese author Chita Wei, who did The Membranes. You've got Three Body Problem. You could do this whole series from Lu Shixin. That could be a neat gift for somebody, giving a sample of science fiction books from other places around the world that have been translated into English. At number 8, this could be a good gift for that reader who's not necessarily a science fiction reader, but has expressed interest in science fiction. A good place, I think, for those people to start sometimes are these slam dunk novels like Project Hail Mary from Andy Weir and The Martian from Andy Weir. And he also published Artemis, which I haven't read, so I can't recommend that one. But if you want to do, like, 3 Andy Weir novels, that could be fun. If you want to be more cost conscious, these would be the 2 really strong novels that I'd recommend. And of course, I'd recommend, a brand new hardback rather than the used copy. But again, if it's cost cutting, you could do, nice looking, more brand new soft covers, or you could, up your game a little bit and go a little bit more expensive and get the hardcovers. Real quick, in Project Hail Mary, the Earth is under threat from perhaps an alien force, and we have to send this guy, Ryland Grace, who is a former, I think, like junior high school science teacher who has some ideas about alien life, and somehow he's the only guy that can save us, so we send him off into in a spaceship out to space to find some answers. And we have like a really interesting relationship between him and another character that's worth reading. Very compelling read. And then in The Martian, we have a character who is with a team up on Mars, and he's kind of left for dead because they think they can't find him, and he got separated from the group. They think he's a goner. So he has to rely on his wits to get himself back home. At number 7 and number 6 are both going to be series. So if you want to give somebody a nice box set of a series, you could do it. I believe you could probably find a hardcover set of the Expanse series. I've got a nice looking paperback set. I just grabbed 2 books because I don't want to be holding all of them. But the first book is Leviathan Wakes. This is a really great space opera series. It's not my favorite science fiction series of all time, but it's a really good one. It's got a great mix of, in our own solar system. It's got a lot of politics. So in The Expanse and Leviathan Wakes, we find out, we've got the Earth, Mars, and the Belters, the people who live in the asteroid belt. So this is somewhat in between near and far future. And the politics and the strife and the conflict between these areas is always kind of at a boiling point. And then we have this alien protomolecule, which everybody's trying to figure out what that is too. I don't want to talk too much about this series, but this could be a really good idea for somebody. You could get just the first couple books of a series. That way it's sort of a gift that's not super expensive, and then start them on their journey. Or if you want to go a little bit bigger and bolder, you could purchase all 9 books of the main series. There are novellas and short stories that go along with this as well. But as far as the gift going goes, I think, a box set, if you could find it, of the 9 books, or you might be able to find 2 box sets. I'm not sure how they sell these, but you could grab all 9 of these. And, they have pretty consistent bindings and covers. At number 6, as I mentioned, is also a series, and we've got the Red Rising series. This is, again, also really strong space opera. I do prefer this over the Expanse series, and I think it's a little bit more universal audience, I think, that will enjoy these. And what's really neat with these also is I think you'll really like Red Rising, but even if it's not your favorite, the next book could be the favorite, or the next book after that could be the favorite. I don't even know which ones I grabbed here, if those are in order. In Red Rising, we have this character, Darrow, who's a really interesting character. And in this world, we have kind of a caste or class system, and the Reds are the lowest caste there. This is written by Pierce Brown. I think you're going to, again, I don't want to promote Amazon, but the easiest places to find these is going to be on Amazon. But again, I would also recommend, see if you can find it on Blackwell's. I really like getting books from Blackwell's. They're always in great condition when I get them. I'm not sure if you'll find this here. And then also try Abe Books, because Abe Books has great used book selections, but you're also going to find new editions as well. At number 5, I'm going to suggest a sampler of books from Gollancz's Science Fiction Masterworks series. Not necessarily this one. I just wanted to show you a few examples. These are really nice looking covers. They're very consistent. You could come up with a few different ways of doing this list. So for number 5, I'm going to suggest doing this by decade. So you could choose maybe, 1950s, you could do Mission of Gravity by Hal Clement. You could do, for the 1960s, representing in the 1960s, you could have Hard to Be a God by Arkady Strugatsky. 1970 could be The Gods Themselves by Isaac Asimov. And 1980, maybe Valis by Philip K. Dick. And it doesn't have to be those books, but I'm sort of curating this list for you. Those might be the ones that I would choose to have represent 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. But you could pick any book. But I think the idea of picking one book from each decade could be a nice gift for somebody. And you could also, do 2 books. And you can really monitor what price you want to do for this gift by maybe 2 books per decade or 1 book per decade. At number 4, I'm going to double down on this with the SF Masterworks books. This time, maybe you can have a curated list of books that represent different subgenres of science fiction. And for example, River of Gods, this might not be the one you pick, but this could represent a cyberpunk on your list. You could go with The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin for philosophical science fiction. Sinners by Pat Cadigan could also be your cyberpunk representation on this list. You could go with Starship Troopers by Robert A. Heinlein to represent military science fiction. And then how about Gateway by Frederick Pohl to represent space opera on the list? Because I want to be conscious of your pocketbook, let's drop the price point a little bit. And I'm going to recommend at number 3, Neal Stephenson's novel Seveneves. You could also do this with Project Hail Mary or The Martian or 11/22/63. Just a standalone novel that is a slam dunk. I think this is a slam dunk read. It's hard to find a science fiction reader, I think, who will read this and not enjoy it. And again, you can get a much nicer copy than I've got here. So that might run you $25, $30, $35. I might suggest finding this at Better World Books, or again at A Books, or if you can find it at Blackwell's. Deciding between number 2 and number 1 was a tough one for me. I'm going to go with Dune, a Folio Society edition. And these might run you about $140, I think. So these are kind of expensive, but it's a beautiful gift. And if you have a science fiction fan in your family or among your friends group that likes Dune, this is going to be a great gift for them. There's great illustrations throughout. This is illustrated by Sam Weber, and I just love the shine on this and just a little bit of color there with the blue eyes for Paul Atreides. And then also, there's a nice special deluxe edition here of Dune too. So if you don't want to spend $140, you can go a little cheaper and still get a really nice copy here. Now, my number 1 science fiction book gift you can give is going to be also from the Folio Society, and that is the Folio Society edition of the Foundation Trilogy. Foundation Trilogy by Isaac Asimov. Let me pull these out. We've got Foundation. Take these nice little sheets off of here. Foundation and Empire, and the second Foundation. These are just really gorgeous editions. And you'll see some imagery in here, some really great artwork. This is a great gift for the Isaac Asimov fan, or really any science fiction fan. Now, these are going to probably run about $200, so this is a nice gift to give somebody. And again, I don't want to spend all of your money. If you like the idea of giving a Folio Society edition, you could go more in like the $65 range, and you could go with Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is maybe more of a fantasy, but it's Ray Bradbury. That's a science fiction and fantasy author. The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin, or Kindred by Octavia Butler, and those are all really nice editions as well. I've got the Kindred edition and also the Left Hand of Darkness, and I would highly recommend those. So I hope in this video you found something for the science fiction lover in your life. Thank you for watching. I'm Michael Everts, and this is Fit to be Read.